I used to spend an entire day editing my videos, but now it takes me about 1 to 2 hours. And the biggest change has come from me being organized before I even get started with editing. I use the free version of DaVinci Resolve, and everything I'm going to show you next is completely free. So instead of throwing all my tasks into one timeline, I like to split my workflow into 3. So that means I'm limiting myself to only one decision at a time. So the first timeline is called All, and that's pretty much where all my raw footage will go into, so that I'm not having to dig through folders, trying to find like a specific clip. And I'll start doing very rough trims. I will copy and paste everything into the second timeline called Selected. I don't really do a lot of editing there. It's mainly just for me to know that this is all of the okay footage that I want to use. What I do next is like a little hack. I stack my selected timeline above my final timeline in DaVinci, and it's one of my favorite workflow hacks because it means I can just drag clips from my selected timeline straight into my final timeline without having to constantly switch between the two. And then we have the final timeline, and that's where I actually start building out my video. So anything that I'm happy with from the selected timeline, I'll drag into the final. By the time I start building out the final video, around 80% of my footage is already gone. So that way I can actually focus on the pacing, the story, and how everything flows together instead of having to search for clips every few seconds. And then I'll add finishing touches like on-screen text or a few keyframe animations if I want to emphasize a certain point that I'm making. I put in my sound effects, and then I do my color grading last. So I'll break all those down in a future video because there's so much to cover there. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's to not make every creative and editing decision at once. That will just burn you out, and it will make editing seem like a much more tedious and bigger problem than it really is.